very warm welcome to Andreas Adldinger. And Andreas Adldinger is the owner of the Adldinger Group. They are headquartered in Kranzberg, and he acts as a general contractor, project developer, investor, and partner in many German municipalities. The Adldinger Group, they design living space, public space, and working space innovatively and sustainable. And the company already exists since 150 years. That really impressed me a lot. And they began as a regional carpentry firm, and therefore wood still plays a really important role today in many construction projects. They replace steel parts with wooden components, specially manufactured for each location. The project they acquire and implement contribute to a better social coexistence. So the approach of the Adldinger Group, and also from Andreas Adldinger, is quite holistic. Construction takes place using lean construction methods with a broad regional network of planners and companies. So regionality and sustainability at all levels, so to say, is really important. The external and the internal impact of all projects is also considered. For example, in Gingen an der Brenz, they are building a new residential building in the inner city, but they don't just want to build the building, they also want to find the super butcher that is still missing within the city center. Since 2018, Andreas has held a teaching position at the DHBW Mosbach, where he lectures on the topics of work preparation, lean management, lean construction, and agile methods. And as mobility is an economic factor that is becoming and must become increasingly sustainable and innovative, it's the reason why a startup like VePa, which will be introduced by Christos afterwards, is a really good fit into the corporate philosophy of Adldinger. So a warm welcome again, Andreas.
Thank you for this warm welcome.
So 150 years is quite impressive. On the other side, we have Simon here, Simon Schubnell from VePa. And this is not 150 years, much younger, but with a bold mission. Simon is the co-founder and CEO of VePa, Vertical Parking. VePa provides the most space-efficient and sustainable parking infrastructure and facilitates the transition from traditional to emission-free mobility concepts. They do everything to rethink parking and create more livable and environmentally friendly urban areas. That's why we from the Venture Lab are also happy to support them. As CEO, Simon is responsible for sales, business development, strategy, and finance. He, from his background, studied international management in Saarbrücken, holds an MBA in Oregon from Oregon, USA, and has a designation for sales, which he developed during his studies. Gained also a very broad experience as sales teams leader after his studies, and expanded his knowledge of consulting and B2B sales in Munich. An interesting background note: during this time, his awareness of rotating park towers was triggered by his father, who saw them in Asia and was thrilled by the concept. And this technology fascinated him a lot, and the idea matured together with David Schön, the other co-founder and also former work colleague, and they took the plunge into the startup and built environment era with VePa, participated in the Explore pre-incubator by UnternehmerTUM, as well in the EIT Urban Mobility Accelerator program, and are also supported by the Venture Lab Built Environment and many others in the Munich ecosystem. And we have a lot of good visions and also good thinking about VePa in the future, how they will transform urban mobility. So welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Christos.
And our third guest today is Korbinian Wittmann from BEFIVE by UnternehmerTUM. BEFIVE is the innovation hub for the built environment industry at the UnternehmerTUM. They are located in Garching, and together with their BEFIVE partners, they foster innovation through cross-company collaboration and support company-specific transformations. Korbinian himself is an expert for team and organizational development, agile framework, and innovation. He studied business administration with a focus on business informatics in Augsburg. And before he joined the UnternehmerTUM, he was responsible for the organizational development at WealthCap. That is a real estate fund. And he's also an expert for Scrum, agile team development, and his experience in organization and business model development. Welcome, Korbinian. Yeah, I think the first question from my side goes to Simon and Andreas. So what are you both working on right now as VePa and as Adldinger? And what was your first thought when you met each other?
Okay, I probably get started. So first thought when we met each other, well, maybe I need to be careful what I'm saying right now, but it was, no, I'm just kidding. It was really nice. So we met actually through the network of the TUM Mentor Lab. And if I got it right, it was like that we were looking for a partner regarding the foundation for one of our projects that we were planning last year. And Tobias just mentioned that he supports a startup, and then Andreas Adldinger said, hey, we can support you with a foundation. And so this was actually the start of our collaboration. So we were really thinking about doing a project together and getting the support regards to foundation from Adldinger Unternehmer Group. And then, yeah, the project did not really work out. So, but it was actually a huge hospital in Munich, and they decided to postpone the project a little bit. And so we stick together, and we just figured out what kind of synergies we have. And it kind of felt like that the idea of collaborating started to rise, and we were looking for aspects which we can work on together. And then, yeah, so this was actually the beginning. And right now what we are doing is we're planning on 2 projects that we want to get done by the end of the year. So one in Freising, which is the home turf of Andreas Adldinger and the Adldinger Unternehmens Group, and also one project in Munich in Werksviertel. And we are really getting our hands dirty and doing the detailed planning and seeing how we can bring the tower that you can see in the background, how can we really bring it to life until the end of the year. So it's really focusing on 2 concrete projects that we are having right now.
Yes, actually the connection to VePa, it was you, Tobias. You had a small pitch in an online event, and so it was for me the kind of opportunity to take part in this online event. I didn't expect anything, and Tobias, you had a small information. It was just half a sentence, that there is a startup which needs a little bit of help. And I thought, well, a little bit of help, that's no problem. A little bit, it's no problem. We can help. And this was then the beginning of our collaboration, yeah. Because Tobias said it was a little bit, but at the first meeting with Simon, it grew the need of help, and yeah, we had actually then we had a project, a real project, not only a little help.
Yeah. So we actually figured out that we need more help than we expected.
I mean, what motivated you, Andreas, to proceed with working them and to help them a lot and not just a little bit?
Well, from the first meeting, every day or every week, I thought about it, about the business case, about the impact on well, built environment, on mobility topics of VePa. I had so many ideas where we in our environment of Adldinger Group already can use this. And this was well the beginning of a thinking process that probably acceleration in this process and this development will be good, and that's why we got in closer contact. Been in within a few months.
So we also do have one question in the chat, and again, please raise your question in the chat or raise your hand if you have a question. Don't hesitate to do so. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on what VePa is doing and what is Adldinger doing and why you fit together.
Well, so maybe I can start with what we are doing. So basically what you can see hopefully in the background here is just a rendering of our product or of our future vision of how a city in the future should look like. And what we are doing is we've developed a Rotary parking system, which means that you can store up to 12 cars, but not only store, also charge up to 12 cars only on the space requirements of a little more than 2 conventional parking spots on the floor. So given that it's a very space efficient solution, especially for dense urban areas where you don't have a lot of space available to create necessarily needed parking capacity and also charging capacity. And we started last year, done the product development and really focused on the machinery part, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of like movement and it's a machine. But then we figured out it's also a building, and we had like the transition from coming from a really like a engineering perspective to a built environment perspective. And this was actually the trigger point for us, that we figured out how complex our product is and how complex the implementation of the projects are going to be when we started thinking about collaborating with Adldinger Group, for example. And so this is what we are doing, and the cooperation is really based on the help that we get regards the construction part and the implementation.
Simon, just for clarification, the project you had together with Adldinger Group was to build how many towers? Or
it was four towers close to the Klinikum rechts der Isar. So they were in need of having 4 of our towers. And it got a little bit more tricky, because then we also had we needed to do some look under the soil, and we saw that it was not a perfect soil to get the foundation there, and then the whole foundation process got a little bit more tricky. And this is where the Adldinger Group came into place to really help us in getting the final planning regards the project on Klinikum rechts der Isar.
In a few words of what we do, you see in the background of Simon, we do the rest. We plan and build the rest beside the VePa tower.
So typical construction, building construction, and so on.
And project development.
Andreas, is it your first collaboration with a startup?
In fact, it is. I found it already quite a lot of companies of our Adldinger Group, and mostly in the planning and building and project development, but with a collaboration with a startup where I'm not the founder, it's the first time. Yeah.
How hard was it for you to start from scratch? So,
you're asking me?
Both. I mean, for you, was it also the first time to collaborate with the company, right?
Yeah.
It was a really professional collaboration from the beginning on. This is maximum professional. And this was what already also convinced me.
Yeah, and maybe to add on this, I think what's really important to start into a collaboration is to have a huge degree of honesty on both sides, and to really make clear what kind of expectations you as a startup has, but also what the corporate partner or the the business partner on the other side has. And it's really important to make this clear right from the beginning, and then start talking about potential issues, potential problems. That's basically this was our start, and it was actually not that hard. So yeah, as Andreas said, we tried to focus on being very professional and provided the Adldinger Group with everything we had regards knowledge, numbers, and everything. So we were really transparent, and then it actually went quite smoothly.
Maybe I bump into that, Andreas. What do you mean with professional, or what did you value as professional from your point of view as a successful entrepreneur and business owner?
Well, Simon and David not only had an idea of a business case, and they had a vision, but they also had a very detailed business plan, and a plan of every month, or at least of every year of the next years. And they had the numbers, and they worked very focused on that. It was not only a idea to perhaps develop this, and might be it will work, and we'll see, but it was it was the plan, and there was not thinking it could not work, or we could perhaps need a few more years, or we will see. You know, every startup has sometimes those thoughts: how do we have to change, perhaps, and is it the right idea, or do we have to adopt in several things? But there was a plan, and I'm sure that will work, and this was the idea we always focused on. Yeah.
Maybe this is also the point where Korbinian tell us some experiences, because at BEFIVE, I mean, you work really intensively with leading industry partners, right? And from your perspective, have you experienced or facilitated similar collaborations, or is it always like this easy, and are the startups well prepared, as Simon and David have been?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tobias. I just raised the question in the chat also to Simon, like what are the other experiences with maybe other companies you talk to? Because my hypothesis would be that in this case, you were really lucky because you talked to the right person of the company, and this person has also the possibility to support in several ways. And for example, we at the moment support two of our partners with a POC project together with a startup. And if you are a bigger corporate, then of course you have several people who are responsible for different parts what you need in the company. And then you have like longer communication ways, and that could be a problem also for startups who have to move faster. And that could be a setup where we try to bridge the gap, and we work on a long-term partnership with our companies, and so we are able to get the right momentum also in the partner companies. But maybe Simon, you can also give us another example where you didn't have like the right person or the right possibilities to work together.
Do you mean like with potential customers, or regarding potential cooperation partners?
Between cooperation partners.
Yeah, so I totally agree. So one of the most important factors is really to get as soon as possible to the person who can really make the decision. I mean, that's nothing new, and this is also what applies to all sales calls, for example. But the thing is, it needs to be somehow a top-down approach, because if the head of a company or the managing director, for example, is really eager to join the corporation, then it trickles down, and then it's easier to get everything that you need. So one advice would be to really start from the top. And I know it's not easy, but it's also not impossible. So try to bring yourself out, go to, for example, to fairs, to networking events, and really talk to the people who can make the decisions, pitch your idea, and make them really, excited about your idea. And then it should work out a little bit easier than just starting from bottom and go through different departments and getting all the different informations that you need. So these are actually our learnings. But we've done this mistake too. So we wrote mails to info@. We discussed with different departments, and then they say, we get back to you in a couple of days, and then you don't get any reply. So it's really, really hard to get what you want if you start from on the right direction, or if you have the wrong entry points into a company. And this is also why I think that networks like the UnternehmerTUM or BEFIVE are very helpful, because they connect startups with decision makers.
Yeah, and maybe to add what you already said. So we, for example, at BEFIVE by UnternehmerTUM, we have the possibility to talk to several corporates, for example, our partners like Max Bögel, PRI, Bayerische Hausbau, and therefore we are happy to support startups out of the UnternehmerTUM or TUM Venture Lab ecosystem, for example, to make the entry at the right point, or to get also what sometimes could be helpful for the startup, to get a perspective of the corporate, and then you can address the right points, or adjust the pitch or the infos you prepare for the call, for example.
And once the first contact is done, Korbinian, sometimes you also experience this huge gap of work culture between a startup or an established company. Do you also help on that to bridge this gap, to bring both worlds together, or did you experience any problems so far when it comes to further collaboration regarding the work culture?
I think the first problem to solve is not really the work culture. The first problem to solve is, has the startup really a product or an idea which is really helpful for the corporate to solve one of their problems? And if they have it, then are they able to explain it really like that way, that the corporate understands quickly what the solution really is about? I think there's also a question in the chat about to Simon, how do you do that? And if you have done that, and then regarding to the next step, how do you work together? Then you should aim for a setup which could work out. And if you, for example, talking not to the right person on a very low level, then maybe you should make sure first to get the right setup, which could be a setup together with BEFIVE to have a neutral partner, or to, as Simon said, to first make sure to talk to the right persons in the company. But I don't believe you have like that really big gap, because if you really identify a problem where you can help the company, then the companies are sometimes really fast also to adapt to new solutions, in my opinion.
May I jump in with a question from the chat? Because Korbinian, you mentioned you need to explain investors or companies really quickly what you do, and if it's a good idea and a good product. Katharina is raising the question if VePa has a problem being a hybrid between building and engineering. So do people catch up your idea quickly, or they first say, what are you? Are you a seller? Are you a construction company? Are you a mobility company? Are you an engineering company? Is that a problem?
Well, it was a problem in the future, but right now, if we talk to like potential customers or cooperation partners, we know how to frame our story, and we know how to convey the information that we want them to hear. But I think that's generally speaking in a startup, and we are quite in an early stage for a hardware startup. So it's just like 1 year, you're still looking for the right product market fit. And this is also why you need to have different stories. In one case, you might be somehow like a mobility company, and in the other case, you are a prop tech, and in the other case, you're a little bit more focusing on doing the planning for the project. So it's a part of the game that you need to figure out where is the biggest need in the market, and where will we focus on. So, and therefore, I wouldn't worry too much that it's that you're confusing other people. Just make sure that you have the right words and the right pitch and the right slides and the right pictures to really address these different the different people or the different segments you're talking to.
We do have a couple of more questions coming from chat. I just will go through them. I think the first one is a very general question from VePa. The first name of this person is VePa. Quite funny. What did you find most useful in going out there and founding a startup? Maybe a lesson you have learned or a certain approach you have had. Really general one, but it's
but it's a good question. So basically, what's really important is you need to start talking to potential customers, stakeholders about your idea, because it's really easy to have a good idea, and then it's really about validating this idea and testing your hypothesis a little bit. So with every idea, with every startup idea, you have a lot of hypotheses. In our case, for example, one hypothesis that our business model works out is that you don't have enough sufficient space in real estate projects for car parking. And so the first thing we did is we started talking to cities, we started talking to real estate companies, to construction companies, and we started talking about and asking, for example, about their pain points. So, and by that we had some good validation of our idea and of our problem that we want to solve with our solution. So this was probably my advice to get started is just have the idea, have probably 1 or 2 slides ready which describes the idea and the problems you solve, and then start talking to people and get some feedback. And then you see how you probably need to adapt your idea and how you can create a business model out of your idea. But that's always the first step, is to start talking and start asking questions.
Then speaking about ideas, so Andreas mentioned before that he liked your professionalism, that you knew what to do, that you had plans, that you had a business plan, that you knew about the construction. Andreas, we have one question in the chat. Would you also consider to invest first only in an idea which is not ready to be applied immediately, or are you more focused in something where you exactly see what's the product and what can I do immediately?
I would also consider investing in an idea, but in fact, to have a vision and an idea, if it works, it should always be in a business case of construction or real estate, so that I can imagine if the idea is in general useful. I would never invest in software, IT, and so on company, where I can imagine the business case.
Was it quite sure from the beginning that you also want to invest into VePa, or when was it clear for you, and what part of the process did you make this decision?
Well, we talked about the possibility, I think.
I think we started talking about this possibility on the Expo Real, the huge fair that we have in Munich. Mm-hmm. And we had a meeting there, and we started actually our fundraising process. And we also were in touch with several investors, and then we basically just got also in touch with you. And this was actually the start of your process of thinking about it.
Yeah, I think the idea of investing in VePa was few weeks before, where they placed the possibility from my side.
Andreas, to that, and investing means that you also want to be with VePa for a long time, or you have a certain strategy to say in 2 years, in 5 years, I'm out, or when we have built so much things. So what's your time horizon for that?
It's more a long-term time horizon. So probably I will be with VePa as long as Simon and David are with VePa.
That's a nice statement. So you clearly bring some value to VePa in terms of knowledge and experience, and also money. Simon, what might be the value you provide to the Adldinger Group?
So I think it's also, it might be an access to talent, because it's a way for established companies to position themselves as a really interesting employer, and to, you know, be present in the startup ecosystem, and to also have startups in their portfolio, in their ecosystem. And I just remember one case when we had one student that actually Christos recommended to us that we should probably reach out to him, because he was a really good student. And then yeah, it was not able to really get a or to place him at VePa, but then we forwarded the application to Andreas, and so this is one example that I would say it might also be a great source for future talent, because this is one of the really limiting factors that the construction industry has, is that we don't have, or the construction industry doesn't have enough people to get all the work done. One other aspect I think is access to innovation and to new business models, to really think about what or how the Adldinger Group could change in the future, or what other fields of business they might look into and develop it. And as you said, it's like a really traditional companies with 100 years of experience. And I think then it's really important to not say, well, this is the status quo and we just leave it like that and we will do this for the next 100 years. I think this won't work out, because it's really important to see future opportunities, to see innovation potential in the market. And I think this is also something that we can help and enable the whole group to really look into different opportunities and to see how you can create a business out of this. And so yeah, these are actually the two main factors, hopefully, Andreas.
Yeah, and to add on this, VePa is enhancing a new network also for Adldinger.
Korbinian, would you say there is more additional benefit for these parties, or in general for startups and corporates when they collaborate? Are there any additional benefits?
One thing to add on your question, Tobias, also from your BEFIVE perspective, Korbinian, because you're more dealing with the large-scale companies. So how would you force or facilitate the connection to startups?
Yeah. Of course, there are other parts that bigger corporates want to use. One part could be also to get insight of how the startup is working, for example, and you use kind of momentum also for their own projects, or to get parts of the know-how, or also to be maybe near to the team and near to technologies. For example, Peri partnered in 3D printing with a company who was already had the basics for 3D printing. So that is when you, for example, are searching for new technology you don't have by yourself, and therefore you get the technology, but also the room for working really fast and have an iterative working on a new problem you want to solve. So this could be, beside the technology, also be a benefit to work with startups or with smaller companies. And what we try to establish it could make sense to work with BEFIVE, or for example, some of our partners work with BEFIVE because they know they have maybe a cultural gap or don't have that speed and want to work together with us, that we ensure the speed and the right direction together with the startup, and we act as a project steering and design together with the startup and the corporate proof of concept project, for example. And we are also a neutral player which can connect both sides, but also on the other hand act like a normal project steering and project manager to ensure the right direction on the one hand, but also then the progress and the execution of the defined scope. So that is what we do in several cases. And sometimes they're like, if one company has a startup, they want to work together, then we step in. And what we also can offer to startups like VePa, that we make introductions, for example, to companies we work together with. For example, VePa, they talk to or we introduce them to the Schubnell or the Bayerische Hausbau, for example. And then, of course, it's always the decision of the corporate if they find the solution helpful or not. But we at first contact, or we can make the first contact often at the right position in the company, for example.
It seems to be a really individual way of connecting people. Can you think of any kind of format you want to be part of to do so? Do you have any ideas or wishes regarding formats? The question goes to every one of you.
We had a format, as you know, like the Future Day, which we connect experts to startups once a year, but also once a year in person at Garching, for example. But also every quarter we have different focus topics at BEFIVE, which we discuss cross-company wide with our partners. And often part of this expert groups is also often a new startup which is presenting their solutions. So that is something we use, that we try to get, or we try to be a possibility for the partners to get to know the most interesting startups out of the ecosystem, out of TUM Venture Labs or the UnternehmerTUM programs.
I do have one more interesting question to Andreas. What is so far the most challenging step during your process of collaboration?
I think from the beginning on, Simon already mentioned, my idea was that it's not only a machine, but it's a building. And this was my perspective on that. And now we see everything is in construction, a building and permission for buildings, quite challenging. And that's I think the actual most challenging thing at VePa, and a bit all in our collaboration.
Yeah, so probably to add on this, the complexity of getting building permits, getting like every planning aspect of the project done is something that is truly complex. Everybody who's in the construction or building industry knows that. And for us, it was kind of like a new world, and we've done a lot of mistakes. Fortunately, we learned from them a lot. But right now, it's really that we get a lot of influx from know-how from the Adldinger Group. And what for us is always challenging is to get enough quality time with Andreas, because he's really busy. And every time we spend time together, then we have a lot of constructive things going on and a lot of solutions to our problems. But we generally have we need more help probably than he can provide us. But we've actually found a good way And we had also like 1 or 2 workshops with the whole team or with specific people from departments from the Adldinger Group, and really dive deep on some problems that we had. And so actually I think we faced this challenge at the beginning, but we have a really good way of working together and collaborating right now, and we have a lot of potential to get time and to get the know-how back from Adldinger Group.
I think this is a very important thing, the speed of communication. And I always say with VePa, together we are in a race, and if you want to win a race, you have to be quick and smart and fast. And so we are not only once a month in communication, but a few times a week. Most half an hour or 5 minutes, or in every kind of communication. But I think this is important. And as a corporate, you have to manage this part of your day and this bit of time.
Can I jump in there, because that's interesting for me? So do you have, for example, like 5 minutes we talk on Monday, 15 minutes we talk on Wednesday, or is it possible for Simon to call you all the time, or what setup do you have?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, Korbinian. So we were thinking about having like regular meetings, bi-weeklies, whatever, but then it was actually also the idea from Andreas, and he said it doesn't make sense, so we need to do this a little bit more ad hoc, which means if there's a pressing problem, then we just text Andreas and he gets back to us within a couple of minutes or hours. This knows such a commitment from the other side, from the cooperation partner, you might think twice if this is the real partner for you, because it's really, really important, and startups are really demanding. They need a lot of time. They're always having problems, that what startups have per definition. So make sure that you are really clear on your expectations.
We try to keep out of all day business, and we try to keep short the to-do list from VePa to Adldinger, especially for me. But of course, there are always problems, and we are also in need to help VePa then.
Thank you very much. So we are almost at the end of this very interesting session. Tobias, shall we open the round for questions from the audience? We have one in the chat, which is a technical one from Delia, and maybe other ones can also join now to speak up with the question. So the question from Delia is to Simon, with please a short answer, Simon. Who is the owner of the piece of land, and who is the owner of the building if you do your towers? And is it possible to build these buildings everywhere in Munich?
Okay, so well, regards to the first part of the question, it depends. So it might be that we are looking for a piece of land and we have like lease agreements and we build the tower and operate the tower on our own. But it might also be the case, and this is what we're planning, for example, with the Adldinger Group right now, that we just sell our solution to a potential customer. Then it's their piece of land, it's going to be their tower, they operate it, and they get, for example, also all the revenues that are coming from it. And the second part was regarding if you can build it everywhere. Unfortunately not. So you need a building permit. That's quite a painful process in Germany, and maybe also specifically in Munich. But we figured out to keep the process as short as possible. But of course, it's a tricky part, and you need to figure out where you have the possibility to build these systems in the future.
A question, as Simon said, Andreas is quite busy, so this is your chance to raise a direct question to Andreas. You may not get any appointment this year again.
I would actually jump in. Hi, Marcel. The question is actually to both of you. So Simon, doing it's a complex product, right? And starting from scratch and bringing this hard, like an actual building to reality seems quite challenging. So bringing this hardware solution in a very specific or very special industry, I would say, to reality, if you could again crunch it down to the 3 most important things that made you succeed actually to bring it to life.
First of all, you need to be kind of bold and just try it. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid of failure, and just try it, because it's a lot of learning that you can learning by doing. It's an old saying, but it really works out. Then second, build your quite quickly a good ecosystem of network partners. This might be corporations partners, but also like in industry experts, customers, other startups. So the construction industry is really fragmented, and you have a lot of players, and this is also a very well connected industry. So if you know one person, then you know a lot of persons. So really build your network. And lastly, get capital as soon as possible, because it's a long-term projects, and you have like really long sales cycles, implementation cycles, and for startups, cash is actually everything, and you need to make sure that you don't have too big of a burn rate and to get out of business before your projects are really done. So these are actually the 3 most important aspects.
Perfect, thank you. And Andreas, I'm also
I think one thing I have to add. We are now, especially now, always talking about scaling. And this is also important. And this is in construction or real estate more problem than in IT business. And scaling in complex machine and building, and this in various cities, the scaling process you have to organize. And this is what also our input the moment at VePa is very important. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you to both of you.
I think this was a really interesting session. Thank you so much, Andreas, Simon, Korbinian, Christos, for making this happen, and all the participants for joining us on this sunny day. I think we will come back in a couple of months with the 3rd edition of our Starting from Scratch open talk with another topic, with another experts. And from my perspective, the VePa Adldinger collaboration is kind of a role model. And I guess we will have additional requests coming from other startups towards your direction, how this is going to happen and how they can learn from you. And maybe we do have another chance to discuss this further. So,
yeah, and just one note on this. So if there are any additional questions also from people right now in the call, so please feel free to reach out to me or also to the Venture Lab team, and please forward all the questions, because we were in the same situation, and we are really happy to help.
Yeah, same for me. I think easiest way to contact me is via LinkedIn, or you go to the website befive.de. There you can also contact, but just reach out via LinkedIn if you need any help out of the UnternehmerTUM ecosystem.
All right, so we will close this round for now, and have a great day, and thanks again.
Thanks, Tobias.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.